Hello again and welcome to episode 3 of my mini-series Historic Ramsgate. We've already met quite some people and historical events in the Historic Quarter episode and also the Artist Quarter. Today we're looking at the harbour and port and also the great and the good who lived and succeeded here in the 18th and 19th centuries in particular. So we've already met characters like Augustus Welby Pugin and Queen Victoria briefly. We've met briefly Samuel Taylor Coleridge. We've met Mary Townley. We've met Charles Darwin and all manner of other people. And some very notable artists and players of stage and screen like Frank Muir and John Le Mesurier. So we're down at the bottom end of what is known as Military Road. This is the port area and we've got 3 listed buildings adjacent to one another. We've got Jacob's Ladder, which we're going to talk about more in a minute, and the Sailors' Church and Home, and also the Smack Boys' Home, which was established in 1881. Before the Industrial Revolution, Ramsgate was an important seaport and it traded with Norway, Russia and New England. Before the era of steam power, Ramsgate was accessed by land by the stagecoach. This service ran between London and Dover. There are more than 443 listed buildings, over 200 of which are down in the vicinity of the harbour. Building materials during the pre-industrial period were produced locally, including bricks, clay tiles and lime. Flint was a common practical and decorative feature, as well as being very sturdy. Whilst the wealthier were using brick, the carpenters dominated the building trade and many were themselves shipwrights. Increasingly, the importance of using breathable materials like lime mortar on historic buildings avoids the damp issues associated with impermeable modern cement. With so many historic buildings in the town, there is an urgent need for historic building skills. And I've spoken about this before, how there's a requirement for some kind of a building or institution so people can relearn the skills that are dying out or even may have almost completely died out in order to serve the area in a more sympathetic way and preserve the wonderful heritage of the town and its architecture. And then of course Ramsgate was associated with the Battle of Waterloo, and in the 18th and 19th centuries there were a number of prominent sea and military captains who were either stationed or chose to reside in Ramsgate both during their exploits and afterwards, and it became quite the place to be after the success of Waterloo. Everybody, the great, the good, the wealthy, the creative, the artistic, saw it as a place to be, and it really did start to boom and come into its own. You had Augustus Welby Pugin himself in the 19th century, who had a lugger on the harbour. A lugger is a type of fishing boat. We've got the nets and the drag along the seabed but it's not, if you like, the kind of mass scale trawling that we have these days. So obviously it was a place of great prosperity, and in fact the area enjoyed prosperity probably until the 1970s, when it started to become more popular to go on holiday abroad every year. So things have changed somewhat since then, but I just want to give you a bit of flavour of how the area was in the days of yore. Now this is Jacob's Ladder. This is a Grade 2 listed staircase on Military Road. It's on West Cliff, so that leads up to the West Cliff. The original Jacob's Ladder was a timber frame structure completed in 1754. It was said to have been erected by Jacob Steed, S-T-E-E-D, perhaps a corruption of the name of the Ramsgate carpenter Joseph Stead, S-T-E-A-D, who died in 1787, aged 59. It was replaced in 1826 by the existing flight of stone steps designed by John Shaw Sr. And it's great way of getting up to the top, and incidentally that road up the top is nicknamed Westminster, and you can come down as well quite easily. They've got the railings to help you do that, and there's lots of dog walkers who come down these steps and back up every day, and just people wanting to access the harbour area without having to go the long way round. This is the Sailors' Church and former Sailors' Home. It's Grade 2 listed. It was opened in 1878. It's red brick with blue brick banding and a slate roof. 3 stories with a central gable to lean-to roof inscribed Sailors' Home. 5 bays of paired lancets on the 2nd and 1st floors, with 2 light paired lancets and a roundel in ashlar to the ground floor. There's a boarded door in a gabled porch to the left return. The interior is a ground floor church with flat exposed timber ceiling on stone corbels, later 19th century wooden seats, lectern from 1878, a hexagonal pulpit, both of which are wooden. There's 4 bay commandment table with trefoil headed panels and framework of painted stone and marble. Stone stairs in the southeast with a dorm with wooden and iron balustrade. There's a dormitory upstand used for shipwreck survivors, etc., with commemorative tablet to Frederick Lucas at the entrance. Founded in 1878 by Christchurch Ramsgate as a harbour mission and sailors' home, the fishing fleet apprentices or smack boys lived upstairs when ashore. Many rescued from shipwreck were cared for. And on the right here we've got, it says it's open for rest and prayer, coffee served Monday to Friday, 10:15 a.m. to 4 p.m. June to September. Everyone welcome. Well, it's open today, so let's take a look around. That's all right, isn't it?
Yes.
Somebody's broken the window, which is terribly sad. costumes. Well, there are a lot of them. Have you seen the fish and the other sea creatures in the windows? Can I point out an interesting feature? Do you see there, you've got the yellow and blue? That's quite interesting because do you remember in 16 Paragon, the stained glass window was yellow and blue? It must have some kind of significance.
The model boats in the wall and the showcases and preservation.
Look at the pulpit as well. Beautifully carved pulpit. And there's the pew.
These look impressive.
It's quite a sizable room.
Yeah.
Of course, in the 19th century, faith was very much the order of the day. Most people went to church, along with, cleanliness is the sign of godliness. It was frowned upon if you didn't go to church. Christian faith was an important and integral part of daily life.
This is the Arethusa. That's old model, must have taken ages to make that.
That's interesting. Deuteronomy chapter 14 verse 21. Do not eat any detestable thing. These are the animals you may eat: the ox, the sheep, the goat, the deer, the gazelle, the roe deer, the wild goat, the ibex, the antelope, and the mountain sheep. You may eat any animal that has a split hoof divided in two, and that chews the cud. However, of those that chew the cud, or that have a split hoof completely divided, you may not eat the camel, the rabbit, or the coney. Although they chew the cud, they do not have a split hoof. They are ceremonially unclean for you. The pig is also unclean. Although it has a split hoof, it does not chew the cud. You are not to eat their meat or touch their carcasses. Of all the creatures living in the water, you may eat any that has fins and scales, but anything that does not have fins and scales you may not eat. For you it is unclean.
That's the kosher diet, isn't it?
And there endeth the lesson. So now we will go next door and take a quick look at the Smack Boys home, which was founded in 1881. So here we are now at the Ramsgate home for Smack Boys. This was founded in 1881, and you see it's adjoined to the Smack Boys home. There's a passage quite popular with pigeons. Anyway, let me tell you a bit about this. Grade 2 listed, former Smack Boys home, dated 1881. Stock brick with red brick pilasters, dressings and parapet and ashlar dressings. A slate roof. 3 stories on a plinth with string courses, pilasters, mock maculations and battlements. 5 cross windows on the second floor and 5 glazing bar sashes on the first floor with pointed arch surrounds and tile-hung tympana. 4 paired segmentally headed glazing bar sashes on the ground floor. Double half-glazed and panelled doors with traceried fanlight to the left in a moulded arch surround. Mosaic band at first floor inscribed, "The Ramsgate Home for Smack Boys, founded 1881. 2-storey and attic extension to left, with strings, battlements and glazed arcaded attic story, with 3 cross windows on the first floor and 3 glazing bar sashes in arch surrounds on the ground floor. The Smack Boys were apprenticed to the fishing smack skippers of Ramsgate. Often the other 4 members of the crew, besides the skipper himself, were all Smack Boys. There were 50 registered smacks here in 1863, 1868 and 1906. The home was the result of pressure put on the Board of Trade by Canon Brennan, Vicar of Christchurch, Ramsgate. No other British fishing port appears to have copied this unique facility." This is the problem, lack of funding. It's a beautiful building. So many of the buildings are in need of a bit of TLC. I must point out at this point that Ramsgate is the only designated Royal Harbour in the UK.
The Harbour Office, still in use. Coast Guard's boat.
Military Road. A lot of this is Pigeon's work. You've got quite a few businesses here. So you've got Ramsgate Radio,
Where it used to be Arco Barco Studios up there.
which we used to use for our music.
A fishmonger's, Callum's.
That's their office. I know you've got this beautiful place here. All Harbour Emporium.
They've got classic motorbikes, drink boxes, leather jackets. Yeah, some of it's gone into the 60s.
And then you've got bike shop. Coco Latino. Now these people drink chocolates. Do you want to go in and have a cup of coffee?
That sounds a very good idea. This is the beautiful harbour. You can imagine what a wonderful time the great and the good would have had down here in the 18th and 19th centuries. There's all manner of this one, look, it's like a garden, a floating house. There's a house that floats in Folkestone Harbour, but this is far better. We've just been in Coco
cantina, and I got a viral Dubai bar. Chloe's Chocolates is their chocolate business in there, and the chocolate is amazing. I just paid quite a bit of money for a handmade viral pistachio Dubai bar, so I'll be giving that a try soon, so stay tuned for that one. And then you've got Ramsgate chandlery, so that's usually candles or chandeliers, but they do other things as well. Yeah, anything for boats. Flooring business next door as well, and then various restaurants. And then up there you see you've got the Royal Temple Yacht Club. Now we are at the Hermitage. With Hermitage this end also across the road. These started to pop up in the 1840s when a number of companies began experimenting with cement to cover a base of hardcore in imitation of large-scale rock formations. James Pullum and Son of Broxbourne in Hertfordshire were amongst several such makers, and they also specialised in terracotta ornaments. The longevity of their company, which lasted from about 1845 to 1945, a century, under the leadership of 3 generations of Pullum, all called James, marked them out, as did the quality of their products. Their work and patrons included relatively modest suburban villas, as well as bankers, ship and railway owners, and the royal family. Work at Sandringham, Windsor and Buckingham Palace earned the company a royal warrant in 1895. Durably guaranteed was one of the company's slogans, and this is largely proved to be true. Whether real stone or artificial, an aim of designers was to replicate the appearance of genuine rock formations with geological strata to, if you like, bring nature into the towns and encourage nature and wildlife and biodiversity. Pullum's was noted for this, and from the 1880s they experimented with different colours and textures of cement. The structure of their designs was a core of overburnt bricks, waste stone and slag, or other industrial waste that was locally available. Overhangs were of real slate or sandstone, and the whole structure was finished with 2 coats of render between 6 and 15mm thick. So this is like a bit of but you could imagine, you think about it, the kind of legendary status of a hermit in a place like this, keeping himself to himself. And over there is like a flight of steps up to the top area here, which is all dwelling houses, and other nooks and crannies up beyond the bench as well. Fascinating. There's another little nook that side as well, and this one. This has a set of steps which will go up now, up to Albion Place. Interesting houses.
This is Albion Hill, leading to Albion Place.
Some of these are listed buildings as well. row of cottages down there. That's Abbott's Hill. And we've got the pretty gardens here, which we'll take a wander through. There's a lot of building work going on here at the moment. Because we've got palm trees. In the summer, in particular, on a nice day, it's like being in the south of France. It's just a pity about the rest of the year with all the wind and rain. You get such a good view over the town from up here. This needs cleaning out a little. It's very pleasant on a nice day to be here. This is the War Memorial. Look, you've got the view right out over there, over the harbour.
Towards Deal on the horizon. Can't see France today.
But you can still see for miles.
Yes. And when the lighting and the weather is right, you can see France quite clearly, because it appears as a sea mirage on the horizon.
And up here, this nice bench. This is the top half of the Hermitage. Another bench there. Two benches. In fact, it's usually busy in the summer months up here. It's a Saturday afternoon, probably about 1:15, and it's rather quiet. But there's a splendid terrace of houses here from the late Georgian period, the Regency period. Albion House ahead of you, and this is associated with Queen Victoria. She, when she was a princess, stayed here at Albion House for over a year, between 1835 and 1836, so a year before the beginning of her reign. And just round the corner you've got Townley's, which is a very well-known restaurant.
They had a piano in there at one time.
Is it shut?
There's somebody in there having a cup of tea.
Shall we go down the long way round
Yes.
onto Weatherspoon? Now this building is now Chuck and Blade Burger, and it's one of 6 in the small brand that it still is. This is where the Royal Albion Hotel stood. James J.J. Tissot, an artist, stayed and painted here in 1876. It was another fine building. Before It was a Choc and Blade, it was a Pizza Express, and before then it was a branch of NatWest. We have no NatWests anymore in Thanet apart from the one in Margate. We've only got the one.
I think the only bank left is the Halifax.
And here's another building. This Charles Herbert Light Tower, second officer and the senior harbour crewman of RMS Titanic, survivor of 2 sinking ships in 2 world wars. He captained Sundown across the English Channel, leading a fleet of little ships to aid the evacuation of Dunkirk, rescuing 130 people in one trip on the 1st of June 1940. And your great-grandfather Percy, he was part of that as well, wasn't he? He was part of Dunkirk, I remember your mum saying. And also, there's another here that we have to look at. My ancestors were 2 of the Cradley chain makers who made the chains for the Titanic. The Cradley Heath chain makers were world renowned. Did you know that, babe?
I didn't know that.
And they travelled over from Wales. They were travellers originally. Welsh gypsy folk. With the Royal Oak Hotel. This is rather nice, isn't it?
Their combined actions during World War XI, often in extreme adverse conditions, have saved the lives of over 13,000 British Allied and enemy aircrew. They've used Arabic 1s to make the Roman 2 there, hence World War XI.
And there's the building here over here on the harbour.
There's Mickey.
Look at that. This is a memorial to the brave ones in the Battle of the Straits. In planes which against the German protecting aircraft were slow as a cart horse compared with a motor car, 18 men of the Fleet Air Arm flew over the channel. Crippled and ablaze before they got within range, they kept on, delivered their attacks and died. 18 men we shall never forget. Daily Mail, February 1942. And these are the names of the men who lost their lives. And then in the background on the harbour, this harbour building, is the Maritime Museum, which is currently shut. It looks like they're probably doing some work on it. It says Ramsgate Meantime.
Some extensive renovations here. Ramsgate Meantime is 5 minutes and 41 seconds faster than this clock.
And there's the clock. The first stroke of this clock from the hour of 12 indicates Greenwich Mean Time.
Which incidentally, I think I set our kitchen clock to Ramsgate Mean Time.
Oh, did you?
Make it look like I'm a bit late when I'm not.
I thought as much. I thought as much.
That's why it's making me hurry up in the morning. I've known other people who've done that with their kitchen clocks.
There's a lovely mule there on the corner of the chip shop. Now we're in the Wetherspoons waiting for pizzas and chips. Having a pint of Ruddles and so is Dan. And then we will start the final part of our walk around. But the Royal Victoria Pavilion is the largest Wetherspoons in the UK, and it's again a beautiful old Victorian building. So
cheers.
Lovingly restored. Beautiful views out across the English Channel. Sunshine. main family. Some new apartments that have been built here, luxury apartments. There's a few remaining, but I'm not sure what I think of it. It looks like a cruise ship. It was supposed to be apartments with shops beneath, including an ice cream parlour, but it never quite took off. It looks like something's opened at last. This is the and that's part of the Cozy Club.
You want to try that out? Right?
Yeah.
That make good content. Yeah. There was supposed to be a gelateria along here, and that's never happened. We're walking towards the Ramsgate tunnels. The Ramsgate tunnels provided shelter for over 4,000 people during the Second World War when the town was heavily bombed. And it's said to be haunted. There's been paranormal sightings of orbs, the spirit of a woman who wanted to dance, and also voices were picked up as well on the spirit box. I'm not surprised really, given its history. The tunnels are in excess of 150 years old. There's a nice area here with a terrace. Let's get an ice cream and they're open.
Yes. It's a sunny day today, but it's very cold in northeast wind as usual. The tide's gradually coming in, as you can see. There's a boat.
Coast Guard's out.
Yes. So we're approaching the tunnels now here, just ahead. So here we have the Ramsgate tunnels, which is open today. It includes a museum. We can go on a tour, guided tour around the tunnels, and it was linked to the railway as well before it was used during the war for shelter. And they've got a cafe as well, vintage. The harbour in 1940 was the point of return for many of the small boats involved in the evacuation from Dunkirk. And wartime precautions included the digging of extensive air raid shelter tunnels in the chalk beneath the town. Ramsgate remained a popular holiday destination until the advent of cheap foreign travel in the post-war decades, particularly from the 1970s onwards. One of the films, of course, in the 1970s that really showed that was Carry On Abroad.
Oh yes, and there's another one from the late 60s, 1969, it's called If It's Tuesday, This Must Be Belgium. I watched that online. It's a funny film, it's a great film. I'll show it you. It's got a young Ian McShane, Lovejoy in it.
Oh, okay, that sounds interesting.
He was the tour guide.
Oh, was
There's a coach trip, all these, I think Americans and various other people
That sounds like fun.
going around Europe and getting to different scrapes.
That sounds like lots of fun. Well, of course, visitor numbers started to fall. This was exacerbated by the decline of the town's small trades and industries, fishing and boat building. And alas, that started the downward spiral, which of course you can see today. It's very sad. But there's every chance that with the right investment we can have something of a revival, and the town is doing its best to pick itself up and dust itself down.
Let's go into the entrance. Very familiar colour. Looks like our kitchen has Adam Green.
Oh, look, tin plates.
Old Monopoly board, we've got one like that.
They're proper, they are.
Yeah, proper wartime enamel plates.
Yeah.
Old suitcases.
I've got one of my nan's old suitcases from the 1950s.
And here is a diagram of the original station.
Yes.
Where the line from Victoria, Charing Cross or London to the train coming in to the station, terminating in here. There's a locomotive on the turntable because the locomotive would detach from its coaches, turn round and run around and go up the other end in the days before push-pull. And class 33s and 4TC units. There it goes. It's a bit like Morden Station. You've got the tunnel at the end and the cutting. You can just imagine that's the Northern Line going off up to Edgware or East Finchley via Bank. Of course, there was another. Ramsgate did have its own underground railway, and it ran from here through the tunnels, and then a separate tunnel was dug, and it comes up on Hearson Road, where Hearson Motors is. That used to be the underground station.
Wow.
And that just stopped running, I think, in the 1960s. It's very small trains.
In July 1926, the last steam train left both Ramsgate Harbour Station and Ramsgate Town Station, and Ramsgate had a new station, even further from the beach than the original town station.
Yes, the one off Wilfrid Road. And then, of course, the rail depot was up there.
And then this was taken shortly after closure. Deserted platforms, litter, and not a train in sight. How sad. The Southern Railway no longer required the station, so they offered it for sale. First in the queue was Ramsgate Corporation, and the newspaper clipping shows they managed to acquire it at a reasonable price. Now all they needed to do was find someone who wanted a beachside property to develop. So it was put up for sale in 1927.
And the line converged onto the existing line up not far from where we live, actually. The railway line goes out from Dumpton Park Station towards Broadstairs, and this line, with the tunnel, would have original line would have joined up somewhere around there.
The company that took the lease was Thanet Amusements, who redeveloped the site as an amusement complex, so that's what it was for a while, and they called it Pleasureland. But with the station building suitably disguised in medieval style, the name was soon changed to Merry England. I've heard of Merry England. The variety of attractions was cafes, rides, a zoo, restaurants, and an aquarium. It looks like a castle, Merry Old England. And then in 1933, it was purchased by Ramsgate Olympia, who refurbished and expanded the attractions. The new Coronation Ballroom on the upper floor of the station building was the place to dance to the top bands, with some events even broadcast on the BBC. The ballroom also hosted functions, wrestling and boxing. And they had a bar called the Long Bar, which was said to be the longest in England. And the company built their own railway to bring passengers down from Dumpton to the Sands and the Fairground. The Sands being the main Sands. In 1939, Merry England was requisitioned by the War Office and became part of HMS Fervent. In 1945, Ramsgate Olympia regained control, and under the chairmanship of Prince Littler, the business was soon up and running again. Completely different frontage. And then by the early 1960s, the package tour revolution was biting hard. Although, to be fair, it really started in the 1970s. That's when it really took hold.
And Ibiza and places.
I knew when I was a kid growing up, there was very few people that I knew who were going away. Hardly anybody went abroad, and that was in the 1970s.
And there's me going to Germany on the plane when I was about 4 years old.
Yeah. This is Digging for Victory. At the beginning of the war in 1939, Britain imported more food than it grew. It's like now, we import probably 70% of our food. 90% of cereals and fats such as butter and more than 50% of meat came from abroad, all transported by ship, which were vulnerable to attack and led to shortages. To make up for the shortfall, people across the nation were encouraged to dig for victory. To support the town's residents, the corporation reorganised their nurseries to support the production of a whole host of different vegetables. There was allotments, but they increased about 900, and a further 120 acres of parks and gardens were ploughed up to support the growing of fruit and vegetables. Even gardens of abandoned and bombed out buildings were put to good use. The campaign was highly successful, and by the war's end there were approximately 1.5 million allotment holders in Great Britain, responsible for the production of 10% of all food being produced, including 25% of the country's fresh eggs. We dig for victory, don't we?
Yeah. Our carrots are coming up in the garden. I think the beetroots are starting to poke through them.
At last.
They do take a while.
Nice little shelter.
Hoverloid. We used to go across to France on the Hoverloid.
Did you?
It was rebranded in 1982, so in 1980 we went across on the Hoverloid. In 81, so the last years of it we went across on them. And there it is, that brings back some memories. Another one that we had until fairly recently, and I mean going like mid-90s, was the Sea Cat from Folkestone. I think it was the last ferry going out of Folkestone as a catamaran.
Do you remember there was the picture of that gentleman as a child who'd been in one of these bunks?
Yeah.
And he was still alive and living in Australia. And there was supposed to be a big gala in 2020, but we had the global incident and it didn't happen, it was cancelled.
Yes.
Do you remember?
The piano seems to have gone.
Kelsey, please. Oh, I've got some of this stuff.
Yeah, it's a good.
Look, that's not the same as mine, but similar. Mine's from the 1950s, but the plates,
Plate, yeah.
I've got some of those. Tin pots and cosies, which I've got.
Yeah.
And then in that little mug, I've got one of those.
Oh yeah, we've got one of those.
Wow.
A sewing machine.
My mum had one of those plates. And I've got a jug, but I've got the bigger jug.
You've got the bigger one, yeah, that we use. There's some more ARP. Put that line out.
Yeah, your granddad was ARP, wasn't it?
It's Home Guard.
Home Guard, sorry.
You never got a chance to get the uniform because the war ended before that happened.
Dad's army.
But Bill was on Home Guard and he would train his unit up on Grove Road Station, which doesn't exist anymore. If you go between Ravenscourt Park and Hammersmith, they're going down on the donkey line. There's a viaduct that goes up. It stops because they've knocked most of it down. That used to be the LSWR that joined up with the Metropolitan.
My mum and Nan both had these overalls here. Each one of those. Not exactly the same pattern, but the same style. Or a very similar style.
The old Hoover cylinder style.
That's more like the one I've got, but mine's a bigger one than that. Mine's the big oval one.
High chair.
There's a little gold one. Coffee. I suppose if somebody died, they just went straight in the coffee.
Straight in there, yeah.
so as not to upset everybody. Do you remember when we were in Lincoln, staying in that hotel, and I said to you, why is there an old soldier sitting in a bath chair in the garden?
Yeah, we both saw him.
And it turned out that it was a spirit, and it had been a home for retired...
Convalescent home for
Yes, yeah.
the bolt hole for people to hide in if the train came past and you're working on a line.
My nan had a mangle.
So did mine.
It was my job on a Monday to wring out all the clean laundry.
They used to have them at Isleworth swimming baths to wring out your swimming trunks.
Oh, right,
Little
okay.
mangles. They're fixed to the wall.
Nice old bike.
Yeah, with poppies on it.
Bakers. He did his deliveries on that.
Yeah. Imagine old Corporal Jones with his meat delivery.
Yes.
I think he had a lorry, didn't he, or a van or something.
Do you remember Bagatelle? I had one when I was growing up.
Bit like pinball.
Yes.
And here's a map of the town as it was during wartime. There's the Greyhound track.
Yes.
So there's Pearson Road, or Putter Street as we refer to it. We're up here.
Yeah.
Originally that was Dumpton Road. And Dumpton Park Drive went only as far as there. It wasn't much of a road then. The Bellevue Road, that's where it starts. The Emporium, there's the Montefiore Synagogue. Skating rink.
Yes, it was there.
That's the Emporium there. And the allotments were next to it, that's where the doctor's surgery is.
Oh, that was allotments, was it?
Yeah, during the war, yeah. And more allotments all down Winterstoke Crescent. And I think that's where the tube, that's the tube station. The miniature railway, it's a small tube line. And it joined up with the tunnels. The yellow line is the line of the tunnel.
And that was the air raid siren.
Yes.
Which is this thing here.
Yeah. So if from our house you would have heard that quite loudly.
That's the new home that's very old.
Common yard.
Interesting.
It failed on its regulations. It's all knocked down and bungalows were put down in their place. Rail alphabet, that font is called. Introduced in the mid-1960s to replace Gill Sans when British Rail went for its rail blue corporate identity. They introduced their rail font, which is loosely based on Helvetica with a bit of transport in it. And it remained in use until privatisation.
In 1945, a proposal was submitted for the railway tunnel entrance area to be converted into a hostel for up to 500 holidaymakers to address worries of a lack of summer visitor accommodation after the war. The layout included an entrance, a reception lobby, single men and single women dormitories separated by family dormitories, lavatory blocks for both sexes, storage rooms, a sick bay and accommodation for a doctor. Plans were drawn up, a budget of up to £7,000 was set, but in the end it was decided the plan would not be in the interest of the town and was rejected. I think it was just too big a project to undertake in the years after the war. Resources were stretched.
Yes, we've got some of those.
Yes. Royal China keeps its prices really well. In the mood. In the mood. In the mood. We're now walking up towards the Kent Steps. Here is the plaque. It tells you about Pugin. These steps are beautiful. They were installed in 2020 and now are part of the Pugin Trail. The project was kindly funded by the Historic England Heritage Schools programme as part of the Ramsgate Heritage Action Zone. They've all been commissioned. And I like the cute little houses and businesses up and down here. We've got a fish and tackle shop and then Peter's Fish Factory. They always have a deal on, so you can get fish and chips for £5.95 or £6.95. A cone of chips, if you just want a few chips, they're not expensive. The chips are nice from there.
Up a chicken house.
Yes, the chickens are living there. And this is Kent Place. And you see there's some lovely houses here.
Here's the steps.
As you can see, they're very beautiful. Pneumonia or TB or
Something like that.
It's very sad though.
Yeah.
He packed a lot into his short life.
Here we are, top of the hill, Albion Place. Again. So we've gone round a little bit of a circuit.
This is sad to see how dilapidated it is. Oh dear. Such a shame. A far cry from the glory days. It's a travesty. A lot of these are Lake Regency.
And now they're bedsits.
Exactly.
About 8 or so flats in this one.
Some are single properties.
Yeah.
But all empty. What a shame.
There's the rather distinctive bandstand. Looks like it's straight from the planet Naboo.
It does, doesn't it? So this is the former home of Major General Sir Charles Warren, 1840 to 1927. Distinguished soldier, police commissioner and archaeologist. He lived here from 1901 to 1914. This is number 10.
And that's flats.
This is the former home for however long he stayed here of Samuel Taylor Coleridge, 1772 to 1834. Poet, critic, philosopher. He stayed here and also at numbers 7, 28 and 29 during the 1830s. A few words about Wellington Crescent. The longer series of stays by Coleridge in what was then the increasingly fashionable seaside resort nearby received only a blue plaque placed on the exterior of the wall at number 3, looking out over the English Channel, which also mentions his stays in a number of other places nearby which are unmarked. Even this did not get put in place till the 21st century, and yet from 1819 till the year before his death he was a frequent visitor and wrote over 50 of his letters and many of his notebooks while in town. He even had his own Latin term for the place, Porta Arietna. His stays were not a matter of briefly passing through. They usually lasted at least a month or more. So this was one of his addresses, along with 7, 28 and 29. And this was designed by Edward Pugin in the Gothic style, once called the Granville Hotel. This grand building was the place to stay for the well-to-do, looking for a seaside break. It had 25 different types of baths. Rebranded as a hotel in 1869 until its sale in 1946, becoming the flat of today. Between 1915 and 1917, it was requisitioned by the government and called the Granville Canadian Special Hospital. And I had a friend who used to live here in one of the apartments. Beautiful, absolutely gorgeous, the most amazing entrance hall. Look at the beautiful tiles. It still looks quite grand, although it still needs a little bit of attention, bless it. It's looking a bit grimy in places. But the ballroom was up for sale recently. That's on the end. I'm not sure what the state of play is on that. But it had a grand ballroom and beautiful chandeliers. Stunning.
And here is a statue of Pugin. The gifted and accommodation son of Augustus Welby Pugin. This bust was erected by Edmund Davis in 1879. And here it is in front of the Granville.
Edward Welby Pugin. So he was Pugin's son, and he was responsible for designing the Granville. But isn't it a beautiful building? Look at the portico at the front. Imagine that as a grand hotel in the 1860s and 1870s. It must have been tremendous, really marvellous. Isn't that stunning? Such a beautiful building. Again, Grade 2 listed.
Needs a bit of attention in places.
My friend used to live in the top apartments.
Yeah.
This is number 62, Plains of Waterloo, where the German philosopher, sociologist, economic historian, journalist and revolutionary socialist stayed in 1879. Fine house. I like the Green Man. Wow. Imagine living in Karl Marx's old place.
And we've seen his grave in Highgate Cemetery.
We have. And they've been leaving loads of flowers. Whoever has been going there has started leaving loads of flowers.
Keir Starmer.
This very unassuming place, without even a blue plaque, was where Coleridge wrote to James Gilman on the 9th of October 1825. It's not very impressive, is it, when you think about it? It's probably been rebuilt at some time because it doesn't look like an original.
No.
Anyway.
Or at least been heavily done up.
Yeah.
It's right by the big tower block.
This is the mausoleum of Sir Moses Montefiore and his wife. He was a leading philanthropist in the 19th century. He was a Sephardic Jew and came from Italy. And next to it is the synagogue, beautiful building. Ramsgate and the surrounding areas still have a thriving Jewish community, and I think it's a beautiful building. I once went to a synagogue when I was with my mum in Tunisia. We went to the Isle of Jerba and they had a synagogue, and we had to wear scarves to go in, but it was beautiful, absolutely stunning. So this is the end of our little tour of the Ramsgate Harbour and the great and the good. I hope you enjoyed coming around with us, and we look forward to seeing you again soon for another episode in the near future. In the meantime, please like, comment, share and subscribe if you haven't already done so, and ding that notification bell so you know when the next video is here to watch. And I'll see you again soon, so bye for now.